Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Russian History Virtual Tour Series, dedicated to the 350th anniversary of Peter the Great. My name is Alexander Arefiev. I am press attaché of the Russian Embassy in South Africa. The Great Northern War between the Swedish Empire and Russia, along with its allies, commenced in the year 1700 and lasted for over 20 years, ending in 1721. This conflict was destined to rebalance the equation of power in Northern Europe and further on change the history of the entire European continent. Of course, a conflict of such a scale would eventually bring the combat from land to sea, and so it happened. Peter the Great was the leader who realized very well that without navy, Russia cannot be a contender to the status of a great power. As he himself once said, "A country that has an army has one hand. A country that has both army and navy has two hands." So Peter the Great did everything he could to bring his dream of watching the Russian ships cutting the seas to reality. Furthermore, in the circumstances of the Great Northern War, the creation of Russian navy had significance that by far surpassed that of a mere dream. It was a necessity. Under Emperor Charles XII, Sweden, aside from its combat prowess on land, was the biggest naval force in the Baltic Sea. Since one of the objectives of the Northern War was to gain access to the Baltic Sea, the battle with the Swedish Navy was inevitable. And we're just about to tell you about the Battle of Gungood, the very first major victory of the Russian Navy, a battle that lit the star of its military glory. The Battle of Gungood took place on the 7th of August 1714, in the vicinity of Cape Gungood, in the waters of Rilahti Bay, near the site of the modern-day city of Hanko, Finland. Here is how it happened. First of all, let's introduce the commanding officers of both sides. Russian commanders were Tsar Peter I himself. He took part in the battle under the alias of Pyotr Mikhailov, Admiral General Fyodor Apraksin, and Commodore Matvei Zmayevich. As for the Swedish side, the commanders were Admiral Gustav Vatrang, Admiral Nils Ehrenskiöld, and Rear Admiral Erik Lilje. The Russian battle plan was a military ruse within a military ruse. Peter the Great made the first move. He came up with a tactical maneuver. He decided to move the Russian galleys in the area to the north from Gungood across the narrow land. Yes, he actually decided to move the ships by land. To perform that, he ordered to construct special wooden platforms. Swedish Admiral Gustav Vatrang, however, saw that plan through and decided to send a squadron of 10 ships, including flagship Elefanten, carrying 18 cannons, to the shore of Cape Gungood to intercept that leap over land of Russian ships. Admiral Nils Ehrenskiöld took command of that task force. The remaining vessels were grouped in the second task force under command of Rear Admiral Erik Lilje. Their objective was to attack the main forces of the Russian fleet. Everything looked good on paper, but Tsar Peter the Great anticipated that the Swedish admirals would do just that, split their forces. On 6th of August, Tsar Peter, with the help of one's best friend while at sea, the favorable weather, decided to take advantage of the fact that the enemy forces were now divided. There was no wind, so the Swedish sailing ships' ability to maneuver was severely limited. The vanguard of the Russian Navy, under command of Commodore Matvei Zmayevich, moved forward while avoiding the Swedish ships and staying out of range of their cannons. Since there was no wind, the Russian vanguard of 20 ships could not be intercepted. Tsar Peter the Great cancelled the order of the land leap since it has fulfilled its main objective. It served as a distraction to make the enemy split its forces. All the while, the second Russian squadron followed Commodore Zmayevich. Admiral Vatrang decided that all Russian ships will follow Zmayevich through the same route to escape to the open sea, and ordered Rear Admiral Lilje to return and intercept the Russian fleet. What Vatrang didn't know, that calling Lilje back actually opened the way for the remaining Russian ships that were pinned down by Lilje's squadron. But since his ships were moved away from the shore, the core forces of Russian Navy, which mostly included galleys, under command of Admiral General Apraksin, moved along the shoreline and eventually joined the vanguard. The Russian ships were brought together and could act as one against separated forces of Sweden's navy. On 7th of August, the Russian vanguard attacked the task force of Admiral Nils Ehrenskiöld. After 3 consecutive attacks, the crews clashed in the boarding fight. Tsar Peter the Great took part in the boarding fight himself, leading his men to victory by example, by his own courage, skill and devotion to duty. All ships of Ehrenschaud's task force were captured, including Elefanten, the flagship. The Battle of Gungut was thus over. The remaining Swedish ships survived by escaping. In September 1714, celebrations were held in St. Petersburg on the occasion of the first major Russian naval victory. The Russian sailors went through the Arc of Triumph with an eagle sitting on the back of an elephant emblazoned upon it. It was a reference to Swedish flagship's name, Elefanten, which means elephant. There was also an inscription made on that Arc of Triumph: Russian eagle does not catch flies. True, the eagle got a bigger prey. In conclusion, we would like to say that the Battle of Gungut did not bring the Great Northern War to an end. The ultimate triumph was still ages away. However, it filled the hearts of Russian sailors with confidence and resolve. The Battle of Gungut showed that the seemingly invincible Swedish Navy could be defeated. This victory still remains in the hearts of millions of Russians. According to one of the legends, the three stripes on the collars of the Russian sailor's uniform symbolize the three biggest victories of Russian Navy: the Battle of Chesma of 1770, Battle of Sinop of 1853, and Battle of Gungut of 1714. That is all for this episode. My name is Alexander Arefiev, and this was the Russian History Virtual Tour Series, dedicated to the 350th anniversary of Peter the Great. We thank you for watching.